June the 8th, which was again not too long ago, it was a couple of days ago. Actually, not even. It was literally, a couple of days ago. Tens of thousands of people gathered in Madrid's Plaza de España for a pro-People's Party, the PP. They're like one of the traditional sort of conservative parties in Spain. Demonstrators demanded the resignation of Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez amidst multiple corruption allegations. What a surprise. Particularly involving his wife, brother, and former transport minister.
What is going on?
It's like the title of like a crazy movie. Like, you know,
it's not just him; it's his family as well. And
yeah, but it's like the cook, the thief.
Yeah, something out of Cluedo.
His wife, brother, and the former transport minister. It's like, how are they involved?
Sounds like Joe Biden's family.
Yeah. The protest under the slogan "Democracy or Mafia" was sparked by leaked recordings suggesting a smear campaign by the Socialist Workers' Party against a police corruption investigation. So the PP claimed, and this is their claim, okay, over 100,000 attendees, while government figures estimated about 45,000 to 50,000 people attended. The rally also highlighted Sanchez's alleged role in the so-called Coldo case, which is a scandal over the awarding of a pandemic-era medical contract. Well, a lot of that was going on during, not only in Spain. And recalls earlier probes into his wife's suspected influence peddling. In response, protesters and PP leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo accused Sanchez's government of mafia-style practices and called for early elections. Wow, here we go, another
early election. Right. It's like we want to change everything all over again.
Domino effect, dude. I told you, right?
People voted for this guy, and like everybody wants to change.
Kind of makes you wonder. And I'm not taking sides here because obviously, like, I can understand the people's issues here, but it kind of makes you wonder. This is becoming a bit of a trend, right? Like we were talking about this, like how first Germany, then Netherlands,
everything.
If there's a pattern, you are like me with this, right? When a pattern starts emerging, you got to start wondering, it's got to be something behind this. I don't know. It just seems a bit fishy.
A lot of countries are.
We have a video of
a short pattern.
We got a short video.
We'll share it now.
Yeah, let's have a look. It looks like a lot of people there. Wow. That's a lot of people.
Deje de esconderse. Deje de mentir.
Stop lying, stop running away.
España ya sabe quién es usted
Feijóo.
y los suyos. España ya sabe demasiado lo que han hecho.
And Spain has had in the last couple of years already a lot of issues. You can keep playing it because, but they've had a lot of their issues because of Catalonia. The whole tensions between those two regions. Catalonia wanted to split, and Spain's always been a bit of a. So this doesn't help, I would say, because this is just showing a lot more of like government in
Catalonia, like they also speak, is it Basque, like a different country?
No, Basque is separate. That's like in the northern
that's
east.
Barcelona, like towards there.
No, Catalonia is more like the southern part of the
okay.
And the northern part is like where, so that's the issue, right? Because the northern part is like the richer part, that's the claim. But then Catalonia is like claiming that that's not true, and then that the resources and everything is mostly from their part, and they're being exploited. So that's why they want to separate. Basque is like a much more smaller area, which is in the north east part, and they have like a long. They've always wanted to separate. The Basque is kind of like the equivalent of like. I would compare it to like Bavaria in Germany or Texas in the United States. It's like you don't mess around with them. There's been a lot of like history with the Basque. Apparently, I have some relations connected to the Basque. So anyway, I don't hold me against it. I don't know, but I have some Basque.
But this protest takes place in Madrid, right? Which is right in the center of like
Madrid
Spain,
is like
right
the administrative. Area in the northern Spain, in the northern part.
As if it wasn't bad enough that they lost against Portugal in the football finals. Like people are unhappy with politics here.
You know what the funny thing is?
They're like even more pissed because they really love football over there.
This is weird
for the Americans, it's soccer.
again, it's all patterned, right? This kind of falls in line with what recently, which we covered in the last end stream about the whole chaos erupting in France after Paris Saint-Germain. You know, the
They
whole
won,
like
though, like
right,
5-0
yeah.
against.
So
like,
there was
Rome in
that.
the
So there's a bit of a
Champions
football.
League final.
Yeah, there's this football connection, which you rightfully put. Like interesting, though. Interesting, yeah. And
It's
we
like
actually.
wherever there's football, there's this like extremism, like with politics.
I don't know. Hey, we've used the analogy, right? Like political parties are kind of like football teams in a way.
Yeah.
And we actually, you can catch that clip about the chaos erupting in France, which we've uploaded that clip from the ENDstream.
Yep,
So,
I'm just gonna post it now in the comments for anyone who's interested. Just look at the chat.
yeah,
And
I posted it already. I think. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, double post.
Okay,
all
we
good.
both posted it.
So this isn't the only thing. Actually, can you go to our Twitter, our
de lo
X?
que han
Sorry.
hecho. Y por eso le digo, ríndase
I think we've seen it.
a la
That's
democracia.
okay. But we can see
Convoque
like there's a lot of.
elecciones.
Yeah, it's
Las
different.
queremos.
Yeah.
If you go to our X, I think I'd made a post which is kind of predictive in some ways. So I reposted on our X. If you scroll down, oh bloody flies, God. Scroll down. I posted. If you scroll down a bit more,
We have a lot of videos.
Here. So I put a quote from. If you go up a bit. The old world is dying and a new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. This is a quote from Antonio Gramsci, and I felt it was quite apt because I saw this. So I reposted it and put that quote in because it's quite telling right now what we're seeing in America, in France, in Ireland, and Spain. And we're going to get into Ireland right now. We're just going to cover that. But it's just like everything is being disrupted. People are fed up. People are frustrated. You know, we're
There's
seeing
so many
scandals.
riots all over the places.
Right.
Like they could be
And-
for like slightly different reasons, but like the general thing is that people are so frustrated with like different systems and people aren't happy. And
What a
people
great
are, like,
time to
going
develop
nuts.
a military defense plan. Anyway, I just
put
thought
these people in order, but there is a way to handle things, and personally, I don't think this is the right way of doing anything. Like it's just destruction.
and people are rightfully fed up. Show them our X at the very top. Don't forget. Follow
That's
us,
our
and you can
channel.
always keep up to date. We also repost all of the clips, all the videos and stuff there. You can keep follow us. We need to build up more of our followers there. So thanks if you do follow us. We appreciate it. So Northern Ireland, not exactly Ireland. It used to be part of Ireland, but Northern Ireland, which is actually part of the UK, the United Kingdom. In Ballymena of Northern Ireland, houses were set ablaze following allegations that 2 teenage boys were involved in the attempted rape of a local teenage girl. Now, this incident sparked a wave
Were
of
they
violence.
Irish? Do you know?
Well, hold on. This incident sparked a wave of violent unrest. Residents blockaded streets, hurled petrol bombs, and torched nearby buildings in retaliation. I mean, to be honest, it's not too far off from what they've experienced in the past. Not to make light of it, but during the IRA, you know, the whole tensions between
Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah. Police intervened to restore order and launched an investigation into both the alleged attack and ensuing disturbances. We have articles about this that we can show? Did we?
Yeah, we
already?
also have like a video on it.
The video is about 12. I don't know if we can really show that, but maybe we show the articles. But so it's still being investigated. Not too much information is being presented. It does beggar to wonder whether, I think the outrage is in relation to the fact that these teenage boys were not locals or natives specifically to Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I think that like caused
Again-
the bigger right.
Again, it's not. There's not enough information out there right now. It's just the fact that it's still ongoing. There's still unrest, and the police are trying to maintain order right now with
Were they
what's
from
going on.
Romania?
We don't know. I don't know if it's been presented yet, but nothing has really come to light. You know how they are with like a lot of this information they don't like
Yeah.
release instantly. I
Well,
think it's because
that's
they're being
what-
careful. They're being very
That's
careful
what
'cause they don't
America
want-
was talking about. Like the US was like telling Storm about that there isn't like free speech and
Well, I can understand like they're being a bit cautious about communities because they don't want then the communities to be like antagonized. So right now it's not. I mean, I don't think it really matters where they come from. I think what the issue is why this occurred, how it occurred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Here,
Northern Ireland. Sorry, go
the
ahead.
teenage
Edge.
boys like spoke through an interpreter in Romanian to confirm.
Okay,
their
so
name.
they probably were like Romanian immigrants.
Like,
but I can tell
whether
you
they
something.
did it or not, that's like another.
It's really sad because Northern Ireland has, like as we mentioned, like a history of a lot of violence and disruption. And the other thing I want to bring up is that unfortunately, and I don't know how much of it we can go into in the video that we're going to do later in the week in relation to, child trafficking. But Northern Ireland is actually one of the significant areas where there's been a lot of that occurring, and a lot of children have been unaccounted for and abused and exploited. So this is really sad to see that this is occurring. Again, right now, there's not enough information in relation to this, but the fact is that there is a lot of social upheaval and unrest going on. So, I mean, there was this video. I just felt it was maybe a bit too long to get into because obviously,
this one?
he basically just unpacks
Northern
the whole
Ireland
thing.
has been rocked by a second night of rioting.
Then I actually go home from work. Then I see many police car, many policemen here, and two fire truck, and I cannot enter my home and my premises.
Looks like they
And I
burned his
am
house
thinking
down.
about this car at my back. I'm
I don't know
fixing
who
this
this guy
car.
is.
In this case, it's involved with racist attacks on the Romanian community in Ballymena.
There you go.
Which
Right.
I've never seen anything like it before, and with
It is-
Filipino people putting big signs on their doors saying "I'm Filipino," because obviously
this aggravates. So this aggravates
Getting out
me.
of hand.
This aggravates me, and it's to stand to reason that I do understand the backlash with a lot of the kind of conservative media or right-wing media whenever they're like, they get angry because when there's a shooter or there's an attack and the media doesn't want to mention the background or the cultural background of the individual because it instantly then marks all that community, unfortunately.
Well,
because
it depends on the media.
From the bias, I'm saying, from the bias, I get where the left comes from when they say, well, if you say he's a Muslim, he's a Muslim, then all of a sudden everybody's just going to paint like all Muslim community. And we already know that there's a major push against Muslims in the West, in Europe. There is whether you like it or not, there is a big push against them. There's a lot of I don't want to use the term Islamophobia, but there's a lot of antagonization against Islam, right? And the reality is there's a lot of good Muslims, there's a lot of integrated Muslims who even are critical about this. Do they all criticize? No, not enough. And I do get it when it comes to on the other side, though. I get it when it's a shooter. It's typical white guy. It's a white person. Oh, it's a racist. It's a this and that. So I see kind of both sides, but I do understand how sensitive they're trying to be because we have seen this, and it's happened in the U.S. where it's like a person of a particular background, and all of a sudden stupid idiots start attacking an entire community of where that person's background is from, and they start victimizing these people. And it's wrong to do that. I can't understand how people can't separate an idiot doing something from a community.
Yeah, that's the problem with communities rioting and causing all this some but there's also another thing in the media. For example, you set the example. Well, you said that some mainstream medias would likely hold back on saying where a person is from, but I can say the left might be holding back where they're from, whereas the right might be we have to say where they're from so this news gets more coverage, so it fuels the fire. It's important to take responsibility with how you approach a thing and the repercussions of it, the consequences.
I think
however,
if you're
they should say it how it is. Why should they hold back in saying where they're from? as well.
I think it's accurate to define somebody, especially if, like, for instance, they're a Christian fundamentalist and they, shoot up, let's say or they attack, let's say a center or a club for I don't know, gay people or something like this, right? Okay. And I think it's also accurate to say it's an Islamic fundamentalist. I think the problem here is that the media isn't responsible enough to define things clearly. And it's the same thing of why you had this whole issue in the United States of America with Black Lives Matter, because the problem is, it's like on one side you have, and we're going to show this bias soon, because we're going to get into this actually right now, on both sides, because when it's, for instance, a black person who commits a crime, it's like certain people say, it's a person of color or a black person or a brown person, right? But if it's a white person, it's like, okay, it's a typical white person. I think there was even a situation where they thought this person was white, but it wasn't white, and then there was this whole backlash and everything.
I actually saw that.
Do you remember the case? I forgot now. They were Latino. They were Latino or Hispanic or something like this.
Well, I saw a different case whereby, no, actually it was on Twitter. I was on a chat and somebody thought a black guy was white and he took offense by it because he wasn't. And it's like, anyway, I just thought it wasn't a big deal, but people like making a big fuss.
The trouble with this is that, like, I get when police use those terms to define a suspect that they're after, because they need to know what the person looks like, right? So we're looking at the suspect. They're white, they're Hispanic, they're Asian, they're black, whatever. Obviously, because they're trying to, like, find out who it is, right?
They wore glasses, they wore a hat.
Yeah, with the media defining things as, wow, they were typical white nationalists, or how do you know? Have you looked into, like, maybe they were just completely deranged? I get it. If this person is ideological, then you should call it out, right? But then again, I think they're not responsible enough, because then they're just like, well, it was a Muslim. Oh yeah, it was just a Christian. So this is why Christians and Muslims, they get upset about this, because it's like, well, you're misrepresenting a major part of our community, because major part of us, we're not violent, we're not. And I know this is going to piss off people, because I know that there has been cases, for instance, in the UK about grooming gangs. And yes, they were coming from a significant proportion of this whole, the whole situation of grooming gangs was coming. Well, not coming. I don't want to say it was coming from, but they were, the perpetrators were obviously of I don't want to say extremists, but they were Islamic in background, right? But again, is that belief or their religion dictating them to do this stuff? The critics would say yes, because it allows blah, blah, blah. But hold on there. You could equally argue the same case for, like, anything, Buddhists, Christians, etc.
Exactly. Like,
you just have to be more responsible.
There might be, like, a few extreme, like, people. For example, okay, we've heard especially after 9/11, and also the whole war in the Middle East and everything, you can say, what is it called? Sharia law about Muslims.
Sharia law, There's been so much discussion over that.
Okay. They're going to take over all of Europe and the world and everything, and that there's a lot of, like, converts. But you can also maybe make a counter argument for other religions, like some extremist Christians or something. I know it
does exist.
Kind of goes against, like, what Christ was for. But, like, they're extremists.
They do exist. For it's definitely in the United States, for instance, there are, like, these sects of, like, fundamentalists, or they're more factions of the evangelical branches, right? But the point that I'm trying to illustrate is, like, has there been extremism of an Islamic slant within Europe? Sure, of course there is. There's no question about that. And I'm sure most people can bring this up, including Muslims.
A lot of examples.
Muslims, European Muslims, including, will bring this up. They'll bring this up.
Yeah.
And in fact,
one of the most common things are, like, those white trucks, like, hitting, like, crowds of people.
But I just don't think you can. I don't think you can paint everybody with the same brush. And actually, I'm hoping to get a few friends of mine that I know, some contacts who are of a Muslim background, to maybe come on here so we can have them interview them at some point. and get their
interesting.
pick their mind about some of these things, in particular also
sure.
about what's going on with Gaza and Israel. I think it would be good to get that perspective, especially because they're coming from a European perspective, but they're obviously Muslim. My only thing is this: it's terrible that this happened. They were Romanian. And for the first time, it's not it's not funny, but for the first time, it's not like, because in Europe there's that thing, right? It's always a Muslim, right? But for the first time, it's Romanian, and this is now becoming this is pushing now more the issue about immigration. Romania is part of the EU.
They are accused of rape, and
I mean, that's terrible.
There are a lot of it is.
But again, my question is this: you see, which
whether they're from a place or not, is that relevant? There could be people from there who are doing the same thing, but it gets.
How are you confusing Filipinos for Romanians? This is why I'm saying it's ignorance.
It's
ignorance?
So stupid.
Ignorance breeds fear. Fear breeds anger. Anger breeds hate. And hatred is never good.
Yeah.
So, and one more point I want to just add on this is that these are teenage boys. Where's this coming from? We need to. That's where I'm now wondering. Nobody's asking that. They're teenage boys. Why is this happening? Yeah. Why are they doing this? Again, we need to start looking at our youth. We need to start looking at the younger generation. What is going on?
Questions to find the right answers.
Yeah, it's sick. This is not correct. You know what I mean? So, anyway, moving on to more chaos, because that's what we like to report on the chaos here.
From this news, in Austria, in the city of Graz, there was a shooting. So somebody shot 10 people at a school. And they say the suspect was 21 years old and had 2 guns. And then afterwards, he killed himself in the bathroom. But 10 people died here.
This was on June 10th, right? June 10th.
Yes,
recently.
Correct.
This was literally a couple days ago. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's crazy. Out of nowhere, he shoots everyone.
According to this article, though, he was a former student. So, and and he, like you said, he killed 10 people, right? These were 9 students.
9 of which were aged between the 14 years old and 17 years old. And also crazy. 1 former teacher.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So they haven't really confirmed the motive yet. But he had legally acquired the firearms and been active at a shooting range since
I didn't
March.
know you could do that in Austria.
In Germany, in Austria, in Switzerland, in some other countries, I think even Netherlands, you can legally own a firearm, but it's not like in the United States of America. These are more you have these types. So I can only give you the example in terms of maybe Austria and Germany, where you have these licenses, which is either if you're a farmer for hunting for obvious reasons,
Yeah, it's the same in a lot of countries where it's hunting. You can get a rifle or something like that. You're not officially allowed to own guns, but a hunting rifle you can get.
But you can also get another license, which is for sport. But you have to always leave the firearm at the locker at the facility. So it's or a shooting range or something like that. And it's for sport. So it's you can only use it for clay pigeons or for for a shooting range and things like this. So again, I feel my take on this is pretty this is terrible. And once again, it's kind of interesting because we've come across. I don't know if you recall, but there have been a multitude of cases of not only school shootings across Europe, but there's also been slayings, right? So this is usually I think it was in Norway where it was with a samurai sword or something. I can't recall the article, but there have been cases of students showing up and they trying to slay, not with firearms necessarily, but or homemade bombs. And this is the thing though. People want to always go onto the point that it's the firearms. Oh, we need more gun control. But the reality is that this is a situation of mental health crisis. This is a clear case. It's always a situation of mental health crisis. We actually, we kind of raised this slightly in an older video we just released, which was the social media being banned, because we're seeing a development of this. And actually, we will talk more about this down the line. We will release more information and perhaps a special report video on how the biggest crisis, which I believe is looming on the horizon, is a socio-psychological crisis that's going to hit the West, like that nobody has any idea. Basically, psychologists, psychoanalysts, and psychiatrists have all been talking about how this is a serious issue. And this is going to become bigger and bigger of an issue, and especially with the younger generation. So I don't want to say it's not surprising, but this is because no one's really taking this seriously. There's a lack of infrastructure, especially in the West. There's a lack of attention to this. Mental health is a serious issue, not only with the elderly, but even more so with the younger bracket of our population. And there are no steps really being taken looking into this, because there is a massive underlying factor which connects to the advancement of our technology. And I'm thinking AI, on top of that, this is going to impact it more. However, there are some, I've spoken to people, there have been some outliers where AI has been assisting people more in terms of mental health, because they can't get mental health help or support. So they're relegating to AI. So it's very interesting. So there's a lot to unpack on that, but I think that'll be for another video or something. Maybe that will look more closer. But there's this. But please check out our global crackdown on social media. So it's a terrible tragedy. This shouldn't be happening. And again, we need to be taking more. We need to be looking into this more. We need to be taking care more of our more vulnerable and the citizens. And it's very easy to blame the firearms and video games and movies and things like this, but you're not going to get anywhere, because the problem is people are still going to watch them, right? And people are still going to get access to these things. Sorry, go ahead. You were saying.
Yeah, I just want to say that a lot of the time, like, instead of accepting it as a psychological issue or like a mental issue that needs to be handled with, people are always putting the blame on other things, be it Call of Duty, be it GTA, be it girlfriend,
Quentin Tarantino's movies, or
like, when it comes down to it, there are a lot of people who watch like Quentin Tarantino movies or play Call of Duty who don't do these things. Like 99.99% of the people don't shoot up schools. So
or kill people mindlessly in an attack.
Exactly. So it's important to not blame the wrong things and to have a bit of focus on what the real issue is.
Looking at the roots of the problem is exactly. And I think that is the political playbook. Always deflect and just attack the thing that is easy to go for, because it's easier to push policy and push rules on this. You know what I mean? Rather than focus on the root, because the root is uglier than most people want to admit, and that's the problem. Because it means taking a deep, hard look at our society and a deep, hard look at what we're not doing right.